Hello, my name is Michael Cormack, and for this math project I am doing graphing cosine. I will be doing two problems, showing you how to analyze them, find the amplitude, our period, as well as our phase shift, as well as how to graph them. Our first question is y equals 4 cosine, in parentheses, 1/2 x plus 2. Now, as I said, before we go into graphing the question, we have to analyze it. We must find our amplitude. We will call this our A. This is the minimum, this will hold the minimum and maximum height of our graph. So in this case, it is always in front of the cosine. So, or depending on if you have cosine, sine, or tangent. In this case, it is 4. So our amplitude is 4, but the minimum is -4. And the maximum is 4. Our B, known as our period, is the distance between each point on our graph. We will have 4 points on each graph. The period has a formula for it. It is 2 pi over b. In this case, our b is 1 over 2. So we will take 2 pi, divide that over 1, put that over 2. To multiply fractions, we will take 2 pi, we will put it over 1, then we will take our 2 and put that over 1, multiply it. How do we multiply fractions? We multiply straight across. 4 pi over 1. 4 pi over 1 can also be 4 pi. So that is our B. Our C is our phase shift. This is the horizontal right or left, right to left, left to right movement of our graph. The formula for this is our C, which is 2 in this case, over our B, which is 4 pi. So we would take 2, put that over 4 pi. Now they both have a GCD, and the greatest common denominator in this case will be 2. So we would divide 2 by 2, divide 4 pi by 2. This will give us 1 over 2 pi. That's our phase shift, or our C. So we have our amplitude is 4, our period is 4 pi, and our phase shift is 1 over 2 pi. Now I'm going to go over here and graph it. So as I said, there are going to be 4 points on our graph. Our period, which is 4 pi, or our B, will be at the very end of our graph. This will represent the largest point on the graph that we have. We're going to have 3 others. Now, when I look at the graph and I notice that the biggest is 4 pi and we have 4, in this case, it's very simple. We can honestly just count down. 4 pi, 3 pi, 2 pi, 1 pi, or you can just have pi. Doesn't matter, 1 pi is pi. Now, when graphing cosine, there's a familiar shape. It's always of this nature. So, or something that looks like that. If you do it like this, it's okay. But if you do not have that certain shape, then you probably did something wrong calculating your amplitude, period, or phase shift, or you just plotted your points wrong. So we're going to put our amplitude in. Our maximum is 4, and our minimum is -4. We already solved our period, and we have a phase shift of 2 pi. So we're going to go, in my opinion, we're condensing this graph, so we're really starting 2 pi above what we originally have. So if we have 4, in reality we're starting at 6, and when we're at -4, in reality we're starting at -2. Normally when we would plot it without the phase shift, we would plot it like this. Which would look like this, but since we have the phase shift, we're going to bring everything back in. So we will start up here, go back to the median, go to our -2, go back to our 3 pi, and go back right there. So this is the real shape of our graph. The purple is the real shape of our graph with our phase shift, and the black is without our phase shift. So the right answer will be our purple in our purple marker. The black is just a guide for me showing you the difference between the two. The next question we have is y equals cosine, in parentheses, x minus pi over 2. Again, we have to identify our amplitude, our period, and our phase shift. Here we can notice that there's no number in front of our cosine, but in math, we know there's 1 there. It might not be there, but it's there. So our A is 1, our amplitude is 1, the minimum height of our graph will be -1, and the maximum height of our graph will be 1. Our period, same formula, 2 pi over b. Our b in this case is x, but there's a 1 in front of our x, we just don't see it, so our 2 pi, put that over 1. And we know that when we have a fraction over 1, it's always our numerator. So 2 pi is our answer. We have our phase shift, so we have pi over 2 over our b. The formula is c over b. So we take our c in this case is pi over 2. Put that over 2 pi. When we multiply fractions, we will wind up with pi over 2. Okay? Now we're going to come here, and we're going to graph just like we did the first time. I'm going to show you the graph with the phase shift and the graph without the phase shift. So again, we're going to draw our minimum and maximum height or our amplitude. So our maximum is 1, our minimum is -1. Our period in this case is 2 pi. So we're going to have 4 points. So if I have 2 pi and we have to get to 1, so we can divide by 0.5. So this could be 1.2, 2 pi. 3 pi over 2 will be our next point. That represents 1.5. Then we have to go to 1. So that could just be pi. Then we have to go to 0.5, which could be pi over 2. Plotted our period. Now I'm going to do without the phase shift. So without the phase shift, our graph would look like this. Now with the phase shift, our phase shift is pi over 2. So we're going to condense this, as I like to say. So we would have pi over 2 in number terms would be 0.5. So we're going to start here. So literally the whole graph is getting a lot smaller than it normally would be. Here. And the purple highlighter is with the graph with the phase shift, and the black is without it. I use that as a reference point. In reality, you can honestly graph this whole thing with the phase shift in one go without having to do 2 graphs because it could be confusing. But that is how you graph cosine.